I feel the spirit moving in me. I feel the spirit moving in me.
Well, a poacher was stopped on a South Texas Gulf Coast beach by a game warden who said that he would be fined for taking lobsters without a permit. What do you mean, the man said? I didn't break the law. These lobsters are my pets. I'm just out for a walk with them. Yeah, right, said the game warden. It's true, the man insisted. I take them out with me, they go into the surf, and I whistle, and they come scuttling back to me. Oh, this I've got to see, says the game warden. So the man tossed the lobsters out into the Gulf, and the game warden said, okay, now let's see you whistle for your lobsters to swim back to you. Lobsters? What lobsters? This joke is based on an assumption that the poacher is telling the truth about his pet lobsters. And you know about making assumptions, right? How does that work for you often? We often find ourselves in trouble when we make assumptions. So we've been talking about the 5 agreements, and you might remember that the 4 agreements originally came out as a book, and then later another book was published titled The 5th Agreement. And so I'm combining them all together and making this a series that I'm calling The 5 Agreements. And so today we're talking about not making assumptions. And so what is an assumption? I think it's a mental leap that we make when to try and fill in the blank in our understanding about situations, about people, about the world around us. We don't know what the truth is, but we create an assumption that helps us to justify it, to rationalize it, to feel good with it, right? And these mental shortcuts are often based on our past experiences, our biases, or incomplete information. And it's interesting because when we make assumptions, we often get ourselves in trouble. And we also often create problems with ourselves, with our relationships, and with the world in general. And we're going to talk about that today, about how we do that. But first of all, I thought I'd show you some people that you might know making assumptions.
Can I assume that's appropriate?
I would assume that.
I'm assuming you didn't hear that.
Well, that part I was assuming.
And why would you assume that?
Why the hell would you assume that?
I don't know, maybe.
So we're not the only ones that make assumptions. I like this quote by Douglas Adams. He says, the hardest assumption to challenge is the one that you don't even know you're making. So our hope is today that we'll start to be aware of the times that we make assumptions. Someone else said, I love this, he said, I dream of a better world where chickens can cross the road without having their motives questioned. I don't know. I don't even know. Can you ask a chicken why you're crossing the road? Everybody asks everybody else, but whoever asks a chicken why they're crossing the road? So a great assumption that I like comes from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Anybody read that book? Oh, wow, really? Where were you guys at in the 70s? Oh, well, maybe some of us are older than some of us, or maybe some of us are younger than some of us. Anyway, that's an assumption, and I'm going to try and quit making assumptions, Because if I make assumptions, then I have to explain my assumptions, and then I make an ass of myself? I don't know. Anyway, this, assumptions begins with ASS, right? So I was just abbreviating. And here I go, making an assumption and trying to explain my assumptions. So anyway, in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey tells this story. And he says, people were sitting quietly. It was a calm and peaceful scene. Suddenly, a man and his children entered the subway car. The children were so loud and so rambunctious that the whole climate on the subway changed instantly. The man sat beside me and closed his eyes, apparently oblivious to the situation. The children were yelling back and forth and throwing things, even grabbing people's papers. It was very disturbing. And yet the man sitting next to me did nothing. I couldn't believe that he could be so insensitive as to let his children run wild like that, and he would do nothing about it, taking no responsibility. It's easy to see that everyone else was on the subway, was irritated just like me. So finally, with what I felt was unusual patience and restraint, I turned to him and said, "Sir, your children are really disturbing a lot of people. I wonder if you couldn't control them a little more." The man said softly, "Oh, you're right. I guess I should do something about it. We just came from the hospital where their mother died about an hour ago." He writes, "I didn't know what to think." And the man says, "And I guess they just don't know how to handle it." Stephen Covey writes, "Can you imagine what I felt in that moment? My paradigm shifted. Suddenly, I saw things differently, and I became differently. I saw differently, I thought differently, I felt differently, and I behaved differently. Feelings of sympathy and compassion flowed freely. Your wife just died. Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you tell me about it? What can I do to help?" Everything changed in an instant. I love this story, as heartbreaking as it is, to see how an assumption can allow us to create and make a decision and have a judgment on something that isn't even true. So the objective of this talk is to explore, why do we make assumptions? How do they affect us and our relationships? How do they affect our inner peace? And what can we do to avoid making assumptions? You know, we often make assumptions about other people, our partners, and ourselves, and these assumptions have an effect on these people and on our lives. You know, we make assumptions about other people. You? Anybody make assumptions about other people? You know, we make assumptions based on somebody's race, somebody's color, somebody's size, based on how somebody is dressed, based on how what car they drive, and we make these assumptions. And I think it's kind of a natural part of being a human being, right? Because we like to figure things out, we like to categorize things, and we like to try and understand things. But I think that the danger with assumptions is, and if we make an assumption about someone, it affects our relationship with them instantly, right? Because as soon as we make a judgment about someone, it's like that gets projected out to the universe and certainly in our minds and our thoughts and our feelings, and then affects how we act towards each other. And so I don't know that we can necessarily end that altogether, because we are human beings, we do think, but the solution, I think, is about being able to then change our thinking about it, right? To embrace the person with love, to open our heart and mind, and to notice. Really, the first thing in dealing with an assumption is to notice, oh my gosh, I just made an assumption. We'll talk more about that in a moment. We also make assumptions about our partners, right? For example, we could say, she should know what I need without me saying what it is, right? They should just know instinctively, right? We assume that our partner can read our minds, right? Ever notice that? And as soon as we do that, we set ourselves up for disappointment and for disagreement and for all kinds of craziness in our relationship. We can also have the assumption, well, he certainly knows what he did wrong, right? As if someone can tell that somebody else is mad at them. Right? You ever shut down because you think somebody's mad at you, and you just get disengaged, and all of a sudden the communication stops and you freeze. So today we're going to look at, what can we do to have a conversation about it? There's a couple more that I like. He's quiet, therefore he must be mad at me. She certainly must know I'm upset with her. Or, I like this one a lot. If he loved me, he would know what I wanted. Right? Because love brings that, right? Love opens us up to that awareness, right? And we also make assumptions about ourselves. I think these are probably the most dangerous ones because they affect our ability to be present and open and loving in whatever we're doing. Have you ever said, I'll never be able to change the way I am, right? This is who I am. Accept it, right? I'm going to accept this is who I am. I can't change, and that's just the way it is. My behavior is fixed. But the truth is, of course, it's not, right? And that's, I think, why we're here and why we study these teachings, because we know that we can change who we are by recognizing what's not working and making a decision, taking steps, doing our meditation, doing our prayer work, becoming aware of who we are and how it's affecting us and the world. We can change ourselves and be the best version of ourselves. Have you ever said, I'm just not smart enough to be successful. I just don't have all that it takes to be successful at this or that or the other thing. It's like sometimes we just don't have the confidence that we think that we need based on some judgment that we have to be a certain way in every situation. It ignores the fact that we are expressions, we're human beings, expressions of the divine, expressions of love that have the ability to make changes in our lives to be more centered, more grounded, more loving, more powerful. And we limit ourselves even in by saying, I'm not smart enough to be successful. We shut ourselves down and keep ourselves closed in so that we cannot reach the potential of what we are. And of course, these are just a few of the many assumptions that we make about ourselves. And so I invite you this week to really look at what are the self-limiting assumptions that you have about yourself. Making assumptions are like saboteurs, leading to misunderstandings, right? If when we make an assumption, we are misunderstanding and we're acting in a way that the partner or the situation might assume that something's going on that's not actually happening. And another thing that happens is we erode trust. And it's interesting, when we make an assumption about someone else, it affects our psyche, right? And it erodes trust because it has a negative impact on our consciousness, right? Our thoughts are things. And if we are mistrusting someone or doubting ourselves, we're eroding that trust and that power to move past that. And if we have enough resentment towards someone, right, because of an assumption that we make, it changes again. It changes our consciousness, right? Because what we spend a preponderance of time thinking about shifts the way we think, right? It changes our pathways in our brain, and it builds up these pathways of doubt and resentment. And so we can actually affect our own consciousness negatively by holding resentments against other people or against ourselves. And I think another effect of having assumptions is that we have missed opportunities for connection, right? Because as soon as we make an assumption, we are really shutting off our ability to communicate. It's like a wall goes up and we're no longer available to be present to that person, present to ourselves, present to an opportunity that might be before us. So how can we avoid making assumptions? And this is the practical part of what we can do to change our situation, change our consciousness. And the first one is to cultivate curiosity. And that curiosity really happens as we start to look at our assumptions, right? And I really invite you into that this week, to notice when you make an assumption about something, and then to ask yourself, what do I really know about this situation? Is this really true? Or am I just making this up? Is this person really acting this way? Or is this my perception and I'm making a judgment based on that perception? And that leads into the next part of this, which is to ask clarifying questions. When we make an assumption, we're assuming that something is true. We're kind of filling in the blank. Instead of saying to somebody, can you help me understand why you're acting this way? Can you help me understand what's really going on? Can you tell me what you're thinking? Are you mad at me? Are you really mad at me? Are you upset with me? Instead of making an assumption, and when we make that assumption, where do we come from? Fear, right? We automatically jump into, this person is thinking this. I know this relationship is over. I am out of here, and I'm gonna get out before I get kicked out, right? and the other person's, washing dishes, having a great time, thinking everything is cool. And all this stuff is going on in our own minds, right? The assumption creates an illusion that something is true that may not even be anywhere near being true. So the key is to ask questions. When there's something that feels powerful about making an assumption. And there's some kind of fear that shows up too, right? Because we make an assumption and it's like, damn, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to make an assumption, right, than it is to ask a question. Isn't it? Right? In a lot of ways, it's just easier just to say, well, this must be what's going on. I'm getting angry about it. I'm pulling up my anchor and I'm out of here, as opposed to asking what's going on. You know? And it's so funny because this is the way our ego works, right? It acts out of that fear. It puts up walls, right? Instead of breaking through the walls, which takes a little bit more work to ask the questions because we might be afraid of what it might reveal, which is just a bunch of craziness anyway, right? Because asking the questions can never really get us in trouble, right? Because we really want to know why the person is shut down. Why did they say a certain thing, right? Instead of making an assumption and assuming the worst, and acting as if it's the worst. I know I've had many times people say like, where in the world did you ever get that idea, right? What planet are you on? So practice, ask clarifying questions. And the next piece of this is to practice active listening. And we talked about this last week too, about, we can get so caught up in our conversations about worrying about what we're going to say next, right? That we're not even listening to what is going on, what the person is saying. And so the idea is to take a breath, right? Recognize that there's some kind of crazy energy happening, right? And turn that into love and just trust yourself, right? We get into crazy listening when we're afraid that we're not going to be able to make an appropriate response, right? Right? And so rather than going there, just embrace the moment with love and listen to what's being said. Watch the person. Look at their body language. Look at their eyes. Give them a break rather than making an assumption about what you think that they're talking about. Really listen to them. And the truth of it is, and I know you all know this, that you will know what to say. Right? How many times have you ever really not known what to say? It's pretty rare, right? And if you really listen, you're going to know what to say. And you don't have to like plan it all out and say, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to say this. Just be in the moment. Actively listen. And then the fourth part of this is to express your needs and your feelings clearly. Just to open up, be transparent. You might even say, gosh, I thought you were mad at me. Or I thought that I said something wrong. Or I thought that, you were thinking about your last boyfriend. And just be honest. And it's like, no, I left that guy a long time ago. I left that guy for you or whatever, right? Just to express what you're feeling. When this is how I felt. When this happened, when you said this, it made me feel angry, afraid, sad. Wow, what does that do when we speak these kinds of words? What happens to the moment? What happens to that moment? There's communication, right? It's like all of a sudden we are communicating with each other and not making assumptions about each other. We're saying what's real. And it's so interesting that, again, our ego, for whatever reason, is afraid of being denied, afraid of being hurt, often doesn't want to speak to what our true feelings are. But as soon as we speak to our feelings, something shifts. And all of a sudden our hearts are open. It's like we're present. And that relationship with another person, that essence within yourself, moves to a whole different level. It's like, wow. Isn't that what life is about, to be in relationship with people in a powerful and true and honest way. And the last one is to seek feedback and reflect. And this is more about the communication. To be able to say, okay, wow, what did you feel about the conversation we had earlier today? How did that feel for you? And generally people are going to be, wow, that was amazing, right? Because we were real with each other. We said that this relationship, this time, has value for me, right? I see that I have value for you when you want to know what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. And it's like it takes that whole relationship to another level, right? Do you understand that? Do you know that? You know that's true, right? Because so much of this is really about, getting rid of the assumptions, getting rid of the fear, and just being open and being present right where you are, living in the moment. And when we seek feedback, we find the truth of what those that we're communicating with are feeling and what we're feeling, and we're able to reflect on, wow, isn't this amazing how this works better than my old strategy? Right? How's that old strategy work? Oftentimes not so good, right? So we want to reflect on our assumptions and then on their outcomes and look at how can we do things differently. I'm going to end with this story today. 2 battleships had been at maneuvers in heavy weather for several days. The visibility was poor, patchy fog, so the captain remained on the bridge, keeping an eye on everything. Shortly after dark, the lookout reported, "Light, bearing on the starboard bow." "Is it steady or moving about?" asked the captain. "Steady, Captain," said the lookout, which meant the ship was on a collision course. The captain called to the signalman, "Signal that ship. We are on a collision course. Advise you to change course 20 degrees. Back came the signal. "Advisable for you to change course 20 degrees. The captain said, "Send. I'm a captain. Change course 20 degrees. They got the response, "I'm a seaman, 2nd class. You had better change course 20 degrees. By this time, the captain was furious. "Send. I'm a battleship. Change course 20 degrees. The flashing light came back with another signal. "I'm a lighthouse." The battleship changed course. Judging people or lights at sea based on their appearances is often a mistake. The captain almost made an awful decision. And when we make assumptions, we do the same thing. So my call to action for you, should you choose to do it, and I have no assumptions about that, I give you the opportunity to look at the practical steps that we offered today. And I invite you to be curious, right? To be curious about the assumptions that you make. To make sure that you're clearly expressing your needs and your feelings. And then observe the changes that happen for you in the relationship. And share with your relationships your feelings. Share with other people how not making assumptions and opening to communication has changed your life and your relationships. Remember, the bridge between misunderstanding and connection is built with the bricks of our questions and the mortar of our willingness to listen. So let's build those bridges with intention and grace, transforming our world into one where assumptions fade into the background and understanding takes center stage. Let's work together to make it a reality. Let's say, I don't make assumptions. I communicate openly to ensure mutual understanding. Let's say it together. I don't make assumptions. I communicate openly to ensure mutual understanding. I invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. Breathing into this moment. And we've had a lot of words today. And I invite you just to breathe into the feeling that you have right now. Breathing in. And just to relax into this moment. And I invite you just to think of one positive thing that you can take from this time together today. Maybe it's a commitment not to make assumptions. Maybe it's a commitment to be aware when you make assumptions. Maybe it's a desire to look deeply at your assumptions. Maybe it's simply to remember the truth of who you are. That you are a brilliant, creative aspect of spirit. That innately within you is wisdom. Is light. Is truth. Is power. You are a creative aspect of spirit, of God, of creation. And breathe into that, knowing that you have everything that you need. You are powerful. You are loving. You are amazing. And hold that thought, hold one of these thoughts for a moment in the silence. Breathing in and breathing out. I invite you to give yourself a big spiritual hug, loving who you are, loving that you are this beautiful, perfect, creative aspect of Spirit, of God, of the universe. And we hold you moving forward from this time in perfect harmony with this truth. And I invite you to begin to bring your awareness back to this moment. And to open your eyes when you're ready. Well, I invite you now to prepare your love offerings to share with Unity on Maui. And it is my responsibility to let you know that currently we are running in the red, which means that we have more expenses than we do have money to pay for those expenses. And so it's my humble request today, if you can find it in your heart, to be a little generous with us. We were $1,500 in the red last month, and it'd be great if we can rectify that, right? It's been a year and a half since we've been in the red, right? Which has been awesome, right? And I know that we will move from this place, but I just need to tell you that that's where we are. And so thank you for your gifts. You are the ones that allow and create the energy for what we get to do here at Unity on Maui. So with that being said, I just want to tell you we love you. And the board and I are working to figure out ways that we can bring in more income to continue this amazing work that we get to do. So thank you for your love and your participation in Unity on Maui. Because, I like to think of this as like a club that we're in, right? It's kind of like a gym that we're all a part of. And your contributions to this spiritual gym is what helps to keep us moving. So thank you for your generosity, and God bless you. Oh, before we do that, let's bless these offerings, ladies and gentlemen. Find the right slide. Here we go. So as you hold your gifts, let's pray and affirm together our affirmation of prosperity, which begins through a grateful, giving heart. My mind and life overflow with the abundance of God's all-providing, infinite supply. And so it is. Namaste. Let's give thanks for our gifts. Breathing in. Thank you, loving Spirit, for these gifts that have come to us in love. We hold them, we bless them, we give thanks for them, knowing that they are moving through this ministry out across this amazing, beautiful island and out into the world. And we see a world that John Lennon imagined. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. All right. So if you'd like to bring flowers some Sunday, we'll put them right up here behind us. And you can sign up, pick a date on the sign-up sheet, and let me know what you'd like those flowers to be dedicated to. And I will happily announce it from here on Sunday. And, we have a whale watch coming up tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And Captain Spence is back here. He's going to be captaining the ship. Do you want to say anything about it, Captain?
Yeah, I'll say it.
Come up here and say it. Oh, I know. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Spence. Woohoo!
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I have a mic that has to be really close to my mouth on the boat, so this works. So I've got room for, I think, 20 more people or so. So there's room tomorrow if you want to come. I did want to say that the harbor is under construction, and because there's no Lahaina harbor, there's twice as many boats and people, so the parking is tight. So the trip leaves at 1, but if you're coming, try to get there no later than 12:30 and plan for a little walk. Maybe if you can carpool, even better, get dropped off. But maybe there might be a 10-minute walk. You might need to park up at the aquarium and come through the buildings. Our boat is on the ocean side of the harbor, so the far side. So the boat's name is Lani Kai, which means heavenly water. It's the second version, Lani Kai 2. There's a big marquee in front of our slip 64 that says Maui Snorkeling. And this is going to be our last whale watch of the year, so get it while you can. But we are going to be honoring this Kama'aina price through the seasons that aren't, summer and spring break where we're, making our real money. But if you guys want to come do a snorkel trip or anything else, you can call us up at that number there and tell us that you're Kama'aina and come on other trips as well. But if you want to come on the Unity Whale Watch trip, that is tomorrow from 1 to 3. It's peak whale season. They're everywhere. It's going to be 2 hours packed with whales, and it's a really good boat for viewing them. So that's all I got. Oh, and if you're coming and you haven't filled out your liability waivers, check your email and try to do that ahead of time. It's easy, but it's a lot nicer to have that done ahead of time so you're not doing it out in the bright sun on your phone in the wind. All right. Any questions for me?
Do we need to bring anything with us if we've done the waiver online? Do we need proof of that?
Nope. It'll be, if you do it online, I'll know. So it'll be good. If you can't do it online, I have paper waivers you can fill out at the boat. Easy peasy. And then there's food. There's going to be lunch. We'll have a nice turkey, ham, or roast beef sandwich with pasta salad. We've got water, soda, juice, all complimentary. Dramamine complimentary. Ginger ale, ginger chews, artificial horizon goggles, which are a new anti-seasickness thing you don't have to take medicine for, and you look crazy, so that's fun. And sunscreen. There is some merchandise if you feel like you want a shirt or a hat. We take credit card for buying, little trinkets and stuff like that. But pack light. We've got everything you need. Pack a camera. I don't have binoculars, but you're not going to need them. The whales are all really close. All right. Any other questions?
Thanks, Captain.
That number's the best one to do. Yep. And you can call them right now. They're taking reservations now. Just tell them that you're Kama'aina. Tell them you're Kama'aina. If you got mail. I'm not going to be checking IDs. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be really, really good. You can tell them, yeah, you're with Unity. That'll be plenty. Yeah. I don't want anybody in this congregation lying. Just tell them you're with Unity. All right. Yeah.
We're united.
What's the website for the forums?
They'll email you a link. But if you've signed up, have you made a reservation already? No. Okay. Yeah, they'll email you a confirmation of all the details, where to be, when to be there. Basically, it's 12:30 at Maalaea Harbor, how to find us, and there will be an email link for your waivers. It's a, standard, don't hurt yourself, and it'll be fine.
And there are cards here with the phone number on it, which you can grab on the way out.
Okay. Yep.
Do you know the email address in case it goes to spam? Is it Maui Snorkeling? So if you can't find it and you type in Maui Snorkeling, I think the waiver would come up.
Maui Snorkeling is the name of the company. Yeah, maybe that would be the right way to search your email if you haven't gotten it. but you should. Bodhi.
The snorkel watch. Okay.
He wants to plug the slide. This boat does have a 28-foot slide on it. It's inflatable and wet. And we don't do it on the whale watch, but if you want to come back and do the water slide with Bodhi, let us know. It's also Kama Aina. All right. Anybody else?
All right. That's going to be fun. All right. So if it's come to our attention, some of you have expressed a desire to have like a quarterly potluck and possibly to have coffee or some kind of drinks on Sunday morning. And in order for that to happen, we need to have a hospitality team. Right now, there are 2 people that signed up for it, and there's lots of room for more to make it easier. So that sign-up sheet's in the back. Sign up if you'd like to help with that. Also, next Sunday, Rob and we will be back, and we'll start rehearsing for a choral group for our Easter service, which Easter comes early this year. It's, what is it, 31st of March, something like that? So we're going to start rehearsing next week for that, and we've got an amazing presentation service for you on Easter Sunday that we're already planning. And next week we'll continue with the 5 agreements, and we're talking about always do your best. And so we're going to talk about what does that mean to do your best? And you're going to have to make an assumption about that right now, because I'm not going to tell you until next week. But we'll talk about what does that mean and how do we always do our best. So if you've ever had that question, join us next week right here at 10 o'clock at Unity on Maui. And if you're watching on Facebook, same for you. See you then next week. And so without much further ado, or without doing anything further, why don't we stand and take a breath, and we'll say the prayer for protection, and then we'll form a circle and sing the peace song. So for ourselves, for the world, let's affirm together the prayer for protection, which begins, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us wherever we are. God is. God bless you. Thank you for being here today.
Where I live, there are rain.